Yesterday, we surveyed how they were, helping us. Now we will concentrate on certain historical materials which, are very essential for understanding for the, of that hoary past. And especially when this will be a combination of non-literate society experiences and literate society experiences. Now we are coming into literate phase of our history. So first of all, I shall be dividing it to three sections. First, I shall be dealing with sigillography. That will be followed by paleography, and then it will be followed by epigraphy. These are the sources of, because these are the branches of knowledge which will provide sources of history, in fact primary sources of history, which are very important for us. So sigillography, that is the study of the seals. You must have heard about Indus seals and other seals, they have been found at Meluha and other places, Babylonia. So what are these seals? So first we will try to know about it. What is sealing, by the way? A sealing is the impression, and that impression still continues. Remember always. Sealing is the impression made by the impact of a hand engraved surface on a softer material such as clay or wax. Nothing would be softer than that. Then objective is why sealing? It was once used to authenticate documents in the manner of signature today. It bore that kind of significance. So the word seal, Latin term is sigillum, French is cell, which refers to either to the matrix or die or to the impression. Seals usually, they are of different shapes. They could be round, they could be pointed, oval in shape, occasionally triangular, square, diamond, and shield shaped. The varieties of shapes are there. Medieval matrices, which was a mass of fine grained rock on which gems, crystals, or fossils are embedded, usually made of latten. Latten is an alloy of copper and zinc resembling brass, hammered into thin sheets and used to make monumental brasses and, and religious, especially church ornaments, a kind of bronze or of silver. Ivory and lead occasionally used, gold very rarely used for sealing. Steel also occurs, but that occurs quite late from early 17th century onwards. 17th century AD, I mean. Matrices could include intaglio, which means a design incised or engraved gems. Usual material was sealing wax made of beeswax or resin, often colored red or green. Mostly they are red or green. Use of seals to establish the authenticity of documents like charters, legal agreements, and for verification of administrative warrants, manuals, etc. In southern Europe, early medieval documents were drawn up by notaries and authenticated with their written signa, but this never replaced seals in northern Europe. They continued to be important. In our country, for my general students, I would say that seals, are always on the documents, or if there is a crime has been committed at a site in a room, then there would put a lock, and lock will be covered with cloth, and then lac will be molten lac will be placed on that, and then there will be a seal of the authority, meaning thereby that it should not be violated by anybody. It will be at his peril. So this was also done in order to prevent forgeries, and forgeries had become very common by 12th century, indicating how important seals had become. Seals were also used to affirm assent by a jury. Nowadays, when the judge passes his judgment, he puts a seal. The officer puts a seal on his letter that, look here, this is the most authenticated letter by me because it bears a seal. Under the Statute of Cambridge, 1388, 14th century, sealed letters were also used in England for identification of people and their places. That is the significance. So, sigillography is used to assist other historical studies. Seals and, for example, let us go into the antiquity. Seals in antiquity, seals with designs carved in intaglio were very popular throughout antiquity. I mean the Greco-Roman society. They were of two main types. One is cylinder, the other is stamp. In India, we have the stamp kind of thing, chapa word is used, put your chap here, that is sealing. So, cylinder first appeared in Mesopotamia in late 4th millennium BC and were used till 4th century BC, such a long period. Then they were widespread in Elam, Syria, Egypt, 3rd millennium BC, and in Cyprus and Aegean islands, it was there in the 2nd millennium BC. A stamp seal preceded cylinder seals, first appeared in Mesopotamia in the 7th millennium BC, so it is much ancient than the cylinder seals, which were 4th millennium BC, in vogue until they were replaced by cylinder seals in 3rd millennium BC. Early stamp seals were also used in Iran. They have been reported from there, from northern Syria and southern Anatolia during the 4th and 3rd millennium BC. In Anatolia, their use was continued by Hittites till 2nd millennium BC. In Egypt, they were replaced largely by the cylinder seals early in the 2nd millennium BC. Their traces have been found as late as that. No documents of sealing have been discovered from ancient India, but the still undeciphered inscriptions on the seals, especially Indus seals, may include personal names. We don't know, but they may include, because why I'm saying this, because this gap in knowledge, as I was telling you earlier, can be filled from other contemporary cultures, if you remember that. So we can go back to those cultures, why they were used. So we find that they were used for personal names, perhaps of the merchants who could have used the seals in much the same ways as their Near East contemporaries, with whom they are known to have commercial contact. As I said in the beginning, we have Indus seals reported from many parts of Asian countries. Since seals were used throughout ancient times and are sufficiently durable to have survived in very large numbers, they constitute one of the few classes of ancient objects in which a continuous development can be traced because of the continuity in their use. The great majority bear artistic representations, so their chief value is for writing art history or doing art history. But since they included details of environment, for example, in the seals, if you look at the Indus seals, you have various plants, animals, even the gods depicted on seals, so they can help you in knowing about environment, plants, animals, tools, plows, chariots, musical instruments, etc. Dress, of course, are there in the seals. They could contribute to, to history and studies of such kind. They may provide information about the existence of rulers known from the king lists, which would help in confirmation by the discovery of their seals. In some cases, rulers are known only from their seals, where they were names of their fathers, the areas or cities they ruled, the chief gods they served, form a valuable historical evidence or source. They are reported like that. The collection of tablets and sealings bearing the impressions of private seals can contribute to their, reconstructions of business archives and destinations of different commodities they traded. Like, the famous Geniza documents. They have been found in chits and bits in some jars, and then the entire business history has been reconstructed. In similar way, these seals can be of immense utility so far, construction of business history is concerned, because they were possibly used for business transactions. They thus may be of use in providing valuable material for economic analysis and distant trade, relations could be deduced from foreign seals in excavations like Indus seals in Meluha and other places, Babylonia. Indus Valley seals were found in Babylonia. Mention of personal names would serve as a source of ethnic analysis, what kind of people are mentioned there. And since they bear the names of owner's father or even grandfather, might provide some material for reconstruction of genealogical history. Paleography is next important theme of today's lecture, because that also will provide us some primary material, and it took centuries and centuries to decipher those those writings, and this was the job of the paleographer, who was an expert. So this discipline is known as paleography. It is a study of ancient and medieval handwriting, mainly handwriting. The term is derived from two Greek terms, paleos, that is old, from that Paleolithic has come. So, and graphein, to write. Epigraphein will be similarly, graphein. Graphein means to write. So it is difficult to define precise boundaries of paleography. For example, epigraphy, the study of inscriptions cut on immovable objects for permanent public inspection, is related to paleography. On this I will deal with in detail later on subsequently. Casual graffiti, sale or election notices as found in the walls of Pompeii dating back to 79 AD, and Christian inscriptions in the Roman catacombs. Catacombs, what are they? They are series of underground chambers on passages used for burying dead peoples, especially in ancient times, are part of paleographical knowledge. In Assam, we have found these catacombs at some places. The Dutch East India Company factors, when they report, one report we have published, there also you will find the early evidence of catacombs, but they are not as early as in antiquity or Egypt. In general, however, paleography embraces writing found principally on papyrus, parchment, vellum, and paper. They have, I am arranging them in a time sequence order. So today, paleography is regarded as relating to Greek and Latin scripts with their derivatives, thus, as a rule, excluding Egyptian, Hebrew, and Middle and Far Eastern scripts. It is closely linked with diplomatics, the study of forms in which official and personal documents are drawn up. The scientific study of Latin paleography and of diplomatics documents dealing with these sources dates from 1681, when French monk, famous, he was very famous, Jean Mabillon, he published his book De Re Diplomatica. On this I will speak later on, in tomorrow's lecture again. The first textbook on this subject, paleography, while his compatriot Bernard de Montfaucon performed a parallel service for Greek paleography in his famous book Paleographia Graeca, which he published in 1708. The primary task of the paleographer is to read the writings of the past correctly and to assign a date and place of origin. Close acquaintance with language of the text is a prerequisite. Until unless you know the languages, I mean the historical language, you can't read the inscription properly. So close acquaintance is important. Changes in styles of handwriting help in dating. I will also speak about them later on. Abbreviations in texts likewise help in dating and localization. So types of writing materials. Paleographer must be familiar with writing materials. Any smooth surface able to accept writing has served in the past, notably, mostly pottery fragments. Our Brahmi inscriptions, they have come from pottery shards. This Anuradhapura early evidence of Brahmi comes from Anuradhapura, that's also on pottery shards. So they are very important pottery fragments. Animal shoulder blades, they are very strong, so they have survived. Slabs of wood, bark, cloth, and metal. Metal, of course, has the most durability. Papyrus was an important writing material and was used in use by 3500 BC. In preparing the surface of this material, strips taken from the papyrus reeds, byblos, growing in the Nile Delta were laid side by side, and while other strips were laid across them at right angles, and the whole was impregnated with paste. After treatment, a fine, smooth surface was created. Much of the administration of Roman Empire depended upon papyrus because they were written on them. Warfare and damp climate resulted in almost total disappearance of papyrus from Europe, though the dry sands of Egypt have preserved vast number of papyrus documents. Papyrus was imported into Europe, therefore, from Egypt, and even after the fall of Rome, we find they were used, they were imported. Chance survivals include charters of the Merovingian kings in France, 7th century AD. Then business documents, 5th to 10th centuries at Ravenna, the old administrative capital of the late Roman Empire. The other great ancient writing materials is parchment, the skin. In our Azad library, we have one of the copies of Holy Quran written on deer skin. So parchment is very popular and on a much larger tract. Or vellum, sheep skin, goat skin, deer skin could be, or any other skin which is durable. The word parchment is derived from Pergamum in Asia Minor, the ancient center of its manufacture. From that this name comes. Both papyrus and parchment were expensive and were replaced for everyday use by wax tablets. They were cheaply produced, so they were much effective cost-wise. Tablets made of wooden blocks were hollowed out and filled with melted, often black wax on that. So on that, something could be written. Notes were made in the hardened surface. Even documents of permanent significance were made of wax tablets. So, since ancient writing materials were expensive, and more so because it was not easily available, they were scarce. So, they were often revised because it is tougher and can be washed or scraped clean. Here, I would like to say one, very famous anecdote from medieval Indian history. It is reported that paper was just introduced, so 10th, 11th century, 11th, 12th century AD. So they were so expensive that the sweetmeat sellers, they used to wash the paper and then serve sweetmeats to others. They could be cleaned, so they had this kind of quality. The original script could be brought out under the ultraviolet light, and parchment thus cleaned and freshly inscribed are called palimpsests. Again, two verbs are there, Greek words are there. Palins means again, repeat, and then sestos, that is scraped. So once you have scraped it, you can rewrite on it. Paper is the great writing material, which is quite a latecomer here. In India, in China, it was discovered as early as 1st century AD, but it reached Samarkand in the 8th century, and from there it traveled to Arab world, and from Arab world to the medieval Europe world. So it has a long history of that. So it was employed extensively in the Arab world by the 9th century AD. It was not in common use in Europe until 14th century. In the early classical world, the standard form of book was papyrus roll. They are commonly called biblion. Biblio is book, so that is from there we have bibliothèque, that is library. By the time of Christ, a new form of book, the codex, famous it is for Gospels, book in the shape in roll. The codex was always of parchment. Papyrus cracks when papyrus has a tendency to crack when folded. So codex was always of parchment. Codex were popularized by Christians by using it for spreading the gospels. They were written on them. Instruments used for writing. What are the instruments with which they were written? Early Egyptians used a slender rush. From about 300 BC, thicker pen of reed was used. It was in general use in Greco-Roman world. Metal pens copied from the reed were also used. Our kalamkars of Machilipatnam, they used to use this kind of pen, metallic pen. For wax tablets, a stylus was used for writing purposes. In Northern Europe, feather, that is penna, pen from which pen has come, was the main writing material. Lead was used in some cases we have found lead also. Lead was used extensively in the Middle Age. Ink was prepared in the variety of ways. In classical times, the black discharge of cattlefish was used. Black discharge of cattlefish was used. Also concoction of soot and gum. In Middle Ages, oak apples were steeped in water with vitriol, ferrous sulfate to produce ink. Analysis of text. The essential skill of a paleographer is to be tested by the ability to recognize the numerous styles of handwriting prevalent in particular period or particular regions, particular localities at particular period of time. In European convention, writing starts on the left at the top, we still do that like that, and works line by line down the page. You go down. An eccentricity known as boustrophodon, it is from the Greek term boustrophodon, following furrows of the ox where there is no ending. You start like this. Where is the pen? Boustrophodon writings are like this. You start from here. Sorry. You start like this. You will go like this. Like you have moved an ox along this and furrows are created. This is called boustrophodon. Our Greek, our Indus scripts are also in a boustrophodon manner. So, whereby alternate lines were written backward, alternate backward, you're starting from here, you come backward, then you go again, then you come backward. So, in mirrors writing occurs chiefly in very ancient inscriptions. India is one of those. Greek and Latin alphabets existed originally as capital or majuscule letters. You read anything, an alphabet of small or minuscule letters developed gradually and was in use by the 8th century AD. What we call, when we are typing, we say use caps, use, normal font. So that kind of thing, majuscule and minuscule. Here, I stop. And next, we will be discussing epigraphy in detail.